Okay, perfect. I am pleased to present our panel for today. So first, we have Latisha Martin. She's a lifelong advocate for herself and the disability community in Montgomery County. Latisha is an advocate for systemic change to allow for accessibility and accommodations that people need. She is a graduate of the LEND program and a member of the Ohio Developmental Disabilities Council, as well as part of the Ohio Olmsted Task Force, People First of Ohio, the Breaking Silences Advocacy Committee. Latisha is a part of many advocacy events, including meetings with state and federal legislators, such as the Disability Policy Seminar in Washington, D.C., Disability Pride, and Self-Advocacy Day at the Ohio State House, and many conferences. So thank you, Latisha, for being here. She is joined by Tim and Bridget Vogt. Tim and Bridget have over 50 years of combined experience working with people with disabilities and over 40 combined years of management, fundraising, and coordinating experience. They have spent their careers studying and innovating around person-centered design and social connections for people with disabilities, their families, and their neighbors. Tim led Starfire through a transformation from segregated disability programming to inclusive community programming. The story of that transformation is the subject of his book, Who's in Your Life? Tim and Bridget continue to work at Starfire, leading creative collaborations with communities, organizations, and families. Please help me welcome Latisha, Tim, and Bridget.
Thank you, Monica. Well, we just want to start with a bit of gratitude. Let's see if this clicker works. No? Try it this way. There we go. Couple things that we're really grateful for. One is we do think this is historic. We think this is the best time to be thinking about inclusion of human beings with disabilities. And we think it's the best time ever in Ohio and in America and in the world. We also think that there's a lot more of that to do. And we think that that means it's a time for creativity and different thinking. So also we are very grateful if you're from a county board. We believe that your organization is the kind of organization that can make one of the biggest differences in the future of what we're going to talk about today, which is how do you engage our neighbors and communities as a source of care, as partners and colleagues in the work, people that aren't on our payrolls, but are in the lives of their neighbors with disabilities. So the county board, because you're so hyper-local, you've got the real story. You've got the real connections. It's so valuable. It's so precious. And it's almost sacred. Don't waste that, right? Use that, lean into that. We also are just grateful because everybody in this room is also a citizen, meaning you clock out and you go home and you live in a neighborhood. And we know that in those neighborhoods are children and adults with a disability that you might think about, well, I know something about including that person. And so we're just really grateful to be in the room with you all. So with that, Bridget.
Okay, so we at Starfire are all about connecting and relationships. So we're going to give you guys a chance to talk with each other just for a few minutes. So if you could find a person or two, no more than that, to kind of talk through what brings you here today, but also what brings you to this effort in your work. What's the source of this work for you? How did you come to be here? And what has it meant to you? Okay, so find someone and share for a few minutes. All right, so take just another minute to wrap that up. Appreciate each other in your conversation. So I would love to have sat with each of you and heard this because I find it so interesting. It says a lot about us, right? And this is just a fun way to get to know each other and appreciate each other. Instead of hearing your life story and your biography, because we don't have time, but we have a couple minutes just to hear from you all. If there's a similarity, a commonality, something that you hear with the person you were talking with that you want to share, if you're willing to talk on a microphone.
We were trying to ask, how did we get into this field? And we all realized that we were always drawn to people with disabilities or someone who needed help. They were drawn to us as well. Even as children, they always navigated to us or we navigated to them. And from there, it just kept on going and going until we couldn't get away from it. We couldn't get away from it.
Even on vacation. Yeah, seriously.
There you go. So somehow there's something just within us. We're drawn. It's a gift. It's a, and there's an awareness, right? I think there's some people we could say that just aren't even aware of the fact, we don't even think about it. We don't look. We don't notice. So that's powerful. Anyone else? Well, Latisha's going to have the stage to herself plenty. So I'm looking for you all right now. Okay.
I think it kind of goes in line with what you just said, is that people aren't aware, is that because we're in it every single day and it's a constant conversation of what we're doing and what we're living, and there's many people who don't have a clue. And so we were all just saying how we enjoy the fact that we can advocate and spread the word of what help is out there and how we personally can help as well.
Thank you. I think you guys are setting us up pretty well for what we're going to talk about for the rest of this. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you all taking the time to talk to each other and think about those things. So
We were here a couple of years ago, and we brought this bit of data, which I think y'all know a little bit about, but basically shows that in 2016, we had 2.3 people in the ages of 18 to 45, which are prime care provider ages, for every person over 65. So essentially every person that was in need of care, right? This would just count the high level kind of, population of the United States. By 2060, which is 35 years from now, they're predicting that that would be down to 1.3 people in the caregiving age range. That's all people. This would be just people that might work at banks or colleges or, the mail department or something like that for every person over the age of 65. It's real simple. As our boomers are aging, more caregivers are needed for that. However, the caregiving population is actually going down, right? This is the stressed caregiving kind of industry that we're looking at. So there's no quick answers. That's what we said. We're like, you can't go back in time and have babies, right? You also it doesn't seem like we've got a good immigration answer that we can bring people in from other countries that might help. So we're in the thick of this problem. And so one of our questions was, back then, why aren't we looking more to the community and helping them to step into just a little bit of what we do? So essentially what we're asking is, all of you who just answered that question, the source of your work, there's a compelling reason. I was drawn to it. I wanted to help. I noticed it, and I want to make a difference and help other people notice it, because some people are not being noticed, right? That's a beautiful thing. You're not the only ones who might feel that. You're not that special. You are. But there are other special people like you, but they're not on our payrolls. And so our question at Starfire has been, if this is a problem for the next 35 years, which is the rest of all of our careers, essentially, Why wouldn't we work on fixing that problem by bringing people without disabilities who aren't paid to be in the system into the lives of people with disabilities? And here's the deal. The community is doing exactly what we have told them to do. We've asked the community to do three things. We've asked them to donate, and they do it. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. Great job. We asked the community to volunteer, and they do it. They show up for our dances, and they show up for our trips to the wherever, and they help out with all kinds of events. They are on our boards, they help us fundraise, and we ask the community to vote for our levies, right? And guess what? They do it, don't they? So the community is basically the best employee we have ever had. Our question is, what else might we ask of them? Can you, yes, vote, volunteer, and donate? Also, could you know someone on your block? Could you call up the family that has a child with a disability and just kind of make sure that you all are connected over the next few years where you share a street where your mortgages go, right? So here's what we're looking at. This is some data for you, for those that like it. We're just going to take this statistic, and it's going to be general. Don't hold me to this, but it's roughly true. In greater Cincinnati, which would be Hamilton County, Northern Kentucky, and some of the surrounding counties, there's roughly 1 million people, okay, roughly. Out of those 1 million people, there's, again, roughly 20,000 people with intellectual developmental disabilities. And this tracks with general data. So general data shows, census data shows, that on average, 1 to 3% of any given population has an intellectual disability, right? So here we are, 20,000 people out of 1 million is 2%, right in that 1 to 3%, right? So it tracks. So let's do some more data. On average in Ohio, every family member is about the size of 4, right? So there might be 3 more family members of these 20,000. What's 3 times 20,000? Yes, good. Asking about math in the morning. You guys passed. 60,000 people plus 20,000 people means that roughly, what's that? 80,000 people out of 1 million have a disability or are immediately related to a person with a disability. And then roughly 5,000 in the biz. People that work at Starfire, people that work at county board, people that work at organizations serving people with disabilities. So all that's under 100,000, which means that only 10% of the population of greater Cincinnati is directly connected to disability, and we think that that tracks everywhere else. So the question is, what's going on? Where's the 90%? Where are they in this story? If we're experiencing a stressed caregiving industry, how are we now investing in these 90% of people? Now, here's the deal. We also think that they have mindsets that are keeping them out of that story, right? And these are what we think a lot of our neighbors think about. You guys can tell me if we're all wet on this. Largely, they think, well, they're all alike and they like each other. You ever heard that? They like to be around their peers. And what do they mean by peers? Other people with disabilities, which means not me, right? And then they say, well, Starfire's taking care of it. I just donate. Or County Board's just taking care of it. I just vote. Or Special Olympics is helping out. I just volunteer, right? So they delegate their responsibility to us, and we willingly accept it, right? Because we've been asking them to do that, which is wonderful, but we think there's more. We think they should have the same sources that you all have. And lastly, they'll say, well, their parents are special people. So, which means they don't see themselves as special people. They don't see themselves as people that could know a person with a disability. Anybody agree or disagree? Can people from the neighborhood know a person with a disability? Yeah, they absolutely can, right? And so the question is, what are we doing to help people step aside from that and say, actually, Every single person's unique and different. And I could know that person as a neighbor, and I could come to support that person in some way. Maybe I get to know Jordan, who just gave the keynote, and I have the patience to wait for her to type her answers, right? Maybe I understand somebody who is different in my neighborhood. Maybe their parents and I get along. So that's where we launched Inclusion Seekers, which, spoiler, is the work of Starfire for the next 20 years. We're going to try to figure out how do you put all of our money, time, and treasure into getting the community mindset to think of themselves as the beginning of connections. We want them to go beyond the things that they're doing, not stop, but go beyond it. And we want to stop telling them to know people with disabilities, and we want to start helping them know just Tim on their block. Does that make sense? So it's really about shaping mindsets and marketing a different story. So we've been telling people and giving out micro grants to neighbors and saying, look, it's not about Starfire. You are the beginning of connections. You are the ones that can do it. And it's always there. It's always possible. So we have a website. This is brand new. We're still figuring it out. We're bringing in the Surgeon General from the United States, Vivek Murthy, who wrote a book on loneliness and disconnection. He'll be in Cincinnati in October. But we've also been playing around with this idea, and Latisha and Bridget have been helping us with that. So one last statistic. Last year, we invested $150,000 in helping families of children with disabilities do their own connecting. We just gave them money. That was money that used to go to DSPs and staff and management. And instead, we started saying, let's give it directly to parents and families and let them build their own relationships. We want to start investing in DSPs. We're starting this year to give micro grants to DSPs and saying, what if we give you a grant to work with one person to develop their local connections? And we're starting to give that also to neighbors and saying, what if we gave you the kind of cash and support that it would take to launch a block party or something and include somebody? So it's a way of shifting power over time and giving people the support they need to live into their responsibility as citizens. All right, so bridge. Here we go.
Okay, so part of this, I mean, we're grateful to DODD. We got a grant to support this. And part of that work, along with the website and all that kind of good stuff, we made an effort to get to know 15 people around the state of Ohio with complex support needs, high support needs, whatever label you'd like to use. But for those people that have a little more trouble fitting into our menu of options, right? So just to say, there were 15 people across the state of Ohio. The majority were in Hamilton County, a few in Fairfield County, Butler County, and Montgomery County. That's my little infographic, trying to make it a little more visual. But basically, it was pretty, we tried to find a wide range of people. So pretty split between male to female. We had 6 people who use wheelchairs. There were about 6 of the 15 that reliably speak to communicate. The rest use various or limited amounts of devices or none, and people are just kind of communicating as best they can. In this, there were 2 people that lived in group homes, 4 were in supported independent or living on their own with staff, and then the rest were in family homes. So my theory is the families were most able to say yes when we asked them, because we were asking them to do a little extra work in some ways. So do you have the clicker? I'll take the clicker. Okay, click on. All right, so what we asked, we were asking them, these 15 people, to say yes. And what they were saying yes to was getting together to have some conversations and to think about themselves, the person they're supporting, their loved one, in different ways. So anybody was invited to be a part of those conversations, all stakeholders. So there were people that had SSAs or IFCs, depends on your title, right? Some county board their behavior support specialist, family members, the person themselves whenever possible. So everybody was invited to be a part of it. They had to be willing to meet beyond the typical planned time or behavior support meetings. So this was not just trying to line services, because for some people, those services just aren't working for them. The logistics of getting up and out of bed and to a place on time on a daily basis just doesn't work for them. So this was going to be, what could we do? What's out there within the community that might work for them to still find some meaning and some purpose in their lives? This little graphic was just sort of where we started. So we were looking for these conversations, overall hopeful and positive. So if we're starting, this was one person's conversation. We started just talking about what is it that this person's really interested in? What are the things we think they would care about that we could really build upon? Who are they as a person? And what we heard was a lot about, everyone said, for those of you in the world, these were not in response to crisis, right? These were just, they're like, man, this meeting's so much more fun. We don't always get to talk about what we want to do or what we think this person should be doing. We're always trying to eliminate something and, in response to that versus what are we really building into somebody and what they want to do. And that response was pretty important. And also the people that were at the table were also thinking personally about what they know, who they know, that could be meaningful, and bring in those ideas and those connections to invite that person and those people to get to know each other. Part of the, in order to agree, we had an innovation fund, is what we called it. So just to take away one less barrier and to kind of offer that carrot to this, like we are asking people to do a little more work, give a little time, we had some funds available for them to use that in ways that would be meaningful and help people to connect. In those conversations, we had a lot of brainstorming with the team, who's there around, what would be meaningful and what would be important. A lot of times we started with just entertainment ideas. If you guys can imagine, like, oh, well, we've got some money. Well, could they go to the movies? We'll go to the movies. Like, okay, well, let's talk about how you meet somebody at the movies, right? You sit, you watch, you leave. So thinking more about what could be more meaningful and important and really play to those gifts versus just entertainment. So just to say, I think when we did a day program, it was a lot about entertaining and filling time versus really looking into the deeper meaning and like the potential for the future. Money has been spent in a variety of ways, and it's been awesome to see. Some people were there's some practical things that they kind of could use. Some people, there was a young man that's really into golf, but it's pretty expensive. Golf's not cheap. He already had clubs, but being able to go to that golf course and get a membership and get some juice there, right? So he got to do that. There is a young man who really loves the moose. Like, you talk about it, he likes, just say the word moose and you've got him. He's hooked. He's actually paying attention. He's focused. And just to say, there was the idea of okay, well, he's close to the zoo and there's a moose here at the Columbus Zoo, I guess. We're in Cincinnati. We don't have a moose at our zoo. And so they were like, well, we could go to the zoo. You could. They tried to volunteer. They were like, well, maybe you could volunteer. That's a great idea. But the levels of permission at the zoo to volunteer, so they kind of had a dead end. But he loves art too, and somebody knows somebody. So they, at the co-op, so he starts doing moose art with an artist. His attention span's kind of short. He can't sign. His team kind of doubted how much he would enjoy the community classes and how that could be stressful to all involved because whatever, but they have money to support the artist to do a one-on-one lesson. Just start there. He's in the space, he gets it. If he's done in 10 minutes, he's done with 10 minutes, we're fine. So what can we build on there? Then the idea of the moose goes, well, we have a moose lodge. Maybe he could join there. Oh, well, my aunt's, again, the people at the table are like, yeah, my aunt's a member. Sure, well, we could do that. And yeah, don't you know, so-and-so, she works, she works over here in this department. She's a moose lodge, well, he should join, right? So now he's going to be a member of the Moose Lodge. What's interesting too about that is the day program that he goes to a couple days a week, they're there, and we weren't really trying to invest in the day program further because it's hit or miss when he attends. But they were like, well, they have a bingo night. And the day program staff was like, well, we could play bingo and see if he even likes it, right? So even building into the day programming program, it has a little more meaning for this guy. There's a purpose to the bingo, at least for him. A little entertainment, like I said, we know we do that. But that has a deeper meaning for him and what it might lead to. There were various other things, a lot of art projects, and some of the investment was helping people show up well. So if you're going to golf, you need a golf shirt. Like you're going to look, chances are if you have a collared shirt versus sweatpants and a t-shirt. So some of those small things that really go a long way to how this guy shows up. And I just talked to him this week and his team, and they're like, he loves it. They know his name now there. So he goes into the pro shop, and his favorite part now is that they know his name. There's people that say, oh, hey, come on in. Yeah, good to see you, right? He didn't have that 6 months ago, right? That wasn't there for him. So, and it's just the beginning. So this is just the beginning for him, but we have to keep thinking around how could we go, let's keep going, keep building. We all didn't make our best friend in a week. We didn't, people don't come to mean something. They know his name, that's the first step. What happens if he keeps showing up and golfing on a regular basis for 20 years? What could that mean to his life? And this was someone, when we talked about who else does he know in his life, he had very few to none people, and complicated family life for a lot of people. So we're grateful to have Latisha here. She's going to share a bit about, so she had some funds and how she used them. Yeah, I got to turn it on. Hold on, I got too much stuff in my hands. Right? Is there anything I missed?
No.
Sure. So, no, it's not on yet. I told you I'm not good at technology. Okay, try now. Yeah.
So, first, I'm going to give a little icebreaker support. Some people in this room, and I'm not going to name names because there's too many of you in this room, have helped me with a long time journey. A long time journey / dream that will be coming true. That will be my mother's best Mother's Day gift ever if she was alive today. Some of you in this room don't know this, but some of you in this room have supported me in having my dream of my wedding come true. I will be getting married next Saturday, May the 17th, 2015. So now we're gonna get, after I just broke the ice and made me feel all happy.
I think that was supposed to be a finale.
No,
That's like a letdown.
No, it's not. I wanted to break the ice and just make myself feel good for like 5 minutes.
100%.
All right, now we're gonna
And wonder why we asked you to do this right before your planned wedding, but that's okay.
It's okay, because I've had stuff that I needed this happen prior to. So I have been a member of Mount Calvary. Let me.
Do you want me to ask you a question?
No. Hold on. You will in a little bit. We're going to do this really quickly, but I have been a member of Mount Calvary Missionary Baptist Church in Dayton, Ohio, would be for 10 years next year. I have been in the sanctuary choir for almost 3 years, 3 or 4 years. And it's always been a thing of, the Lord has blessed me over and over again, but the one talent that He's given me, I don't know if any of you have been to Dayton and used to come to Choices and Community Living's talent show that we used to have every year, but the Lord has blessed me to be able to sing. So for many, many years, I have desired to be in the church choir. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I joined our sanctuary choir. And last year, during Innovation Series, I met Bridget and one of her coworkers who escapes me at the moment. No,
Jan, Carol?
I cannot remember. Who escapes me at the moment. And I will never forget this presentation for as long as the Lord allows me. But they were talking about this program that I've never heard about. So when we got offline, I called Ann Tapia, if you're in the room. I said, Ann, you've got to connect me to Bridget right now. I've got to see what this Starfire is about. So about the next week, I connected with Bridget. I connected with her co-partner, Carol, and I said, Carol, I want to set up a meeting with you to learn about what this program is and everything. She said, okay, I'll put you on the mailing list. I went to a few meetings, learn what they do, learn how they support the community, and I was like, I want to do this. I said, I wonder if this organization can support me. But I don't know because I'm in Dayton and they're in Cincinnati. Did not know at the time that they are like all over Ohio and elsewhere. And so we were in a inclusion seekers session, and one of the parents came on talking about a project that they did. And I was like, Bridget, I want to do a project. She said, what kind of project do you want to do? We went back and forth about 3 projects, and then I said, I got an idea. She said, what is it? I said, well, we're planning right now for we're doing a dedication concert in the month of February of 2025. But I don't know if I can join right now because we're already in practicing. They're getting ready to order their robes. And so now we're just going to ask me like 2 questions out of like 5 questions that she was going to answer, because I basically
You're rolling.
have answered the questions without even thinking about it.
You have. So you're right. We did go back and forth and we talked a lot. We had some conversations around the use of the money. But I mean, how did you end up using it? How did you decide to use some of it?
So the choir had already ordered their robes, and one of the ladies, Miss Sister Linda Donald, we are very good friends. She was like, now mind you, she's older than me, so this is what she says. She says, I want my baby girl to be, mind you, I'm not as old I'm older than I look. So she says, literally, I'm about to be 43 years old in July. So she says, I want my baby girl because at first I was gonna just wear a black uniform that I was gonna put together. And she says, no, I want us to be unified, and I want my baby girl to look like us. And then she asked me, she said, can you wear a robe? I said, Mom, no. I said, she said, why? And I said, it's too difficult to take me out the chair and, put on a traditional robe. She said, So after I told her that, me and Bridget were in a meeting talking about something, and she said, I have an idea. Or her mom said, I have an idea. And I said, what is it? She said, what about a cape? Since you cannot put on a regular robe, and the cape is going to look just like a robe, except for it's going to be made, instead of putting it on like a full length robe, it will be a half length, but it'll still look like a robe. So, now I have to turn around
Yeah, I was
again.
gonna say, there's photos up there, if you can see on our slide. So that's Miss Linda in progress, who
Yes.
did this. So it's, you know, in some ways, the inclusion seekers, it's not just about, Latisha obviously has many gifts, we know, and Miss Linda has the gift of sewing and able to do that, and she could, you know, she enjoys that anyway. And she got to do that, and it was multiple people, it wasn't just her who got involved, and we talked with, who came up with this plan, and the people that know each other best, right, within that church and the choir, to say who should, oh, well, you know, we've got this, like, what are we gonna do? Latisha could have worn a black shirt, but you can see her in that picture, she looks a lot more included, a part of the choir with the one that matches versus just a black shirt. So do you want to talk too, because we also use some funds just to give a little appreciation too, right?
So I'm a person who, if somebody does something for me, and I'm going to call out one person for a very split second. If somebody does something nice for me, and for the purpose of this meeting, I'm gonna be very professional. So I asked Miss Linda, Jesus help me, I asked Miss Lisa Bird to do something very, very, very special for me. And she was like, yes, I'll do it. And I'm like, Lord, this lady has done so much for me. You just don't know what a difference that her and her other team members have done. So, how I plan to appreciate her. Not only is she going to get 1,000 hugs and kisses on this very special day, but so I appreciate people if you take time out to do something for me, which Miss Lisa does this tremendously, more than I can count. If you take time out to do something for me, which Miss Linda Donald probably took, gonna say, would you say close to a month, maybe, to do my robe, or longer. So I ended up buying her a appreciation gift of her favorite coffee and a coffee mug with the letter L on it with flowers or butterflies. She had no idea that I was going to do this. So that's one thing that I did. I also purchased me a uniform because with the way my robe is made, I cannot have sleeves on my robe. So I have a black polo shirt and black dress pants to go with my robe that I wear as my uniform. So I bought my uniform. I gave Miss Linda appreciation gift. And what else did I do?
No, I think that's wonderful, Latisha.
And those are the two things that I did. So this project has taught me now to not to be afraid to ask anybody. Now, mind you, when I say anybody, mind you, that is anybody that I know for anything that I need, with the exception of money. So I could call Miss Monica next week and say, can you help me write a letter to the hotel telling them thank you for allowing me the space and the time to give my presentation last week. So now I don't have to go, oh, well, Mom Lisa is gonna tell me I have to call her back in 2 weeks because she's too busy to help me. I don't have to do that now, because I know, sitting in this room, for the people that know me, if I call you within the next month and ask you to do anything for me, you're gonna remember this presentation.
Thank you,
That I'm
Latisha.
trying to be, that individuals are trying to be included in your communities. And I just use Miss Monica as an example, because if it were not for today, I wouldn't know who Monica is. And I'm not meaning that to be joking. Bridget gave me the opportunity to know everybody in this room that is not connected to me. So she did what we as Starfire is trying to do.
That's right.
Connect individuals to other places than places that they are connected to. I am connected to my church because I'm a self-advocate and with the assistance of Starfire.
Okay. Thank you, Latisha. Thank you, Latisha. So I really just love, I think bringing up the idea of people could use some of their funds to give people gifts is kind of, it's a whole nother mindset that I think some people are like, oh, never thought about that, right? But Latisha, obviously, like, showing appreciation. These are just some quick quotes from some people that were involved in some of those meetings. I'm learning this is about more people, more places, and more roles. People are more capable than I thought. You know, seeing somebody in a place where they're comfortable and they're feeling pretty good about themselves, we see a lot versus like sitting in the meeting room and trying to talk about, you know, your goals for the year.
And Lisa tells me that all the time. She says, you are more capable than what people allow you to be.
It's too important. We have to keep trying. We're at the beginning of something. There are people out there willing to know someone. We haven't taken the time to find them. So we're going to kind of leave it at that. I think we have a little bit of time for Q&A maybe. So if you got any.
We do have time for questions, but, oh, we got one already. All right.
So could you talk a little bit more about some of the folks that, I'm trying to use the right verbiage, the non-speaking folks that maybe couldn't express what they might want to use the funds for? And so how did you collaborate with the team and include them, and how did that work?
Yep. So it was sort of a team effort, kind of like, where have you seen someone be excited? And this is, like I said, it's sort of the beginning for some people. So the young man who likes art, they're like, well, he plays with Play-Doh. Like, okay, well, let's build on that. You know, that may not be the most amazing artistic thing, right? When I think about what adults do, but it's something to build on. So let's try it, right? So not that you can, this is not his money, right? Like, this is, he can still have his, you know, I think about how people's individual budgets, you know, oh, you got to hold that money out for McDonald's at the end of the week or this, right? So this money was like, well, let's use it. Let's try an art class. Let's see. What if he hates it? It's okay, right? But what if he loves it? So there are definitely some people that are just on the beginning. Like I said, a lot of people's first instincts were like, well, I mean, movies, like that came up a lot. I'm like, nope, we're gonna have to keep thinking, guys. Like, let's keep brainstorming. So there are people that know them well. I will say too, there's people that just know them, like people that know them very little. So we're building off people that just, they'd been in ICFMRs and just recently moved into this house with these providers. new providers all the time, so kind of building off that. So some of it's just kind of take a guess. Let's just invest a little time and see what happens.
The one thing that I think, at least we've perceived, is that the community is also more capable than we've given them credit for. And they're open to an invitation. We chose the word inclusion seekers for a reason. Everyone can be one, right? You can be one if you have a disability. You can be one if you are a neighbor. You can be one if you are a parent of a child with a disability. You can be one as a service provider, as an administrator. You're always looking for more. And the people that we want to connect people to are the people that are going to last in their lives, right? So as much as we love our service provider world and our pros, right, us as the biz, we are temporary individuals as long as we are in the job. And we're looking for more Sister Lindas. We're looking for more Moose Lodge members. Our question is, if someone belongs to a Moose Lodge for 20 years, what might happen? So why wouldn't we start that story now? Because in 20 years, that's the quickest we can get to that, right? What happens if somebody joins the choir now and then becomes beloved, right?
Then I will help them get included in the choir.
Yeah.
If
So
somebody were to call me right now, tomorrow, and say, I want to join the Mount Calvary choir, guess what? I know exactly who to call to get you connected.
we are all inclusion seekers, and that means you all are as well. So we're looking for exactly that. How do we become the welcomers? How do we become the people that start the long stories of relationships and affection? And how do we, as a business, as a system, use our resources and our power to invest in community capacity?
And if I may ask, when you ask a question, could you please mention the person's name, who the question is for?
Any questions?
I don't have a question, so it's not for a specific person, but I just want to say thank you for broadening my way of thinking. I was sharing with the person next to me that I like to crochet, and I get together with friends sometimes to just do that. And I know there are people in my community with disabilities who like to do that too, and I've never invited anybody, so thank you.
And just to,
Example right there.
and another thing is just one person at a time. That's a real struggle for us. We try to be efficient. And efficiency means, even the guy with the art experience on the team at the first, they were like, well, maybe we should invite some other people to go to the artist co-op. And I was like, no, that's just recreating. That's what we know. They already have that, right? We've got to do things differently if we want different results. So it is just one person at a time in that experience. And we as community members, we have to think that's more comfortable. Like, that's how you get to know someone versus, overwhelming groups of people at a time. It's a lot. So that would be beautiful. Invite someone in or think about what groups are out there. Thank you.
You're an inclusion seeker.
Exactly.
So are you crocheting?
Have one already. Well, actually, we have 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's kind of like a Wizard of Oz, like you were already that, like you already had the heart.
We just gave you the inspiration to keep it going.
Any other questions? I love the thought that we have to do something differently if we want different outcomes. I think that's such a great way to think about it on a Friday.
And I'm going to say, I look forward to seeing you all in a couple weeks at the Innovation Series.
All right, please help me give a wonderful hand to our panel.